we're really looking for technology companies to set up in the United Kingdom to help them go global, but keep obviously their operations in India. Now, you might think, well, okay, you're looking at specific sectors in technology. The funny thing is, today I found companies from every single sector, from healthcare to mobile apps to logistics to e-commerce to cloud companies. I could not say to you, this one sector is the one which is the most popular, or this is the one which is the next big thing. I think they're all big things. I think there's so much being done in this entrepreneurial space simultaneously that we've got to be excited about all of those sectors. Yes, well, the British government actually has been behind entrepreneurism globally, and with a view to getting those entrepreneurs and the technologies in the UK for many, many years. There's a very simple reason for it. The UK has phenomenal infrastructure for business people. It's one of the easiest places in the world to do business. But because we only have 60 million people, we want more entrepreneurs there. We want more business people there. We want more businesses there because we've got this great infrastructure. We've got infrastructure which has been built over decades. You know, when you think about the amount of money the British have invested in their transport systems, their air systems, all their infrastructure, it's a great, easy place to do business and enter the EU. And don't forget, the EU is a $14 trillion market. Even if it doesn't grow, it's at $14 trillion of sales of goods and services every single day. And that's the same as the US. So you're tapping from the UK, of course, thanks to Britain's special relationship, the US market of $14 trillion, and you've got the EU, of which the United Kingdom's a part, so that's another $14 trillion, $28 trillion. You're pretty much looking at more than half of the world's GDP runs through Europe and the US. So the UK obviously makes sense. If you want to go global as a technology company, nowadays you've got to do it on day one. You can't wait till day 365 because you've already been overtaken by somebody else. You've got to on day one be looking at going global, and for us we think that means out of Britain. They're not. It's journalists. It's journalists who make them negative. I want to strangle journalists. You know, they're always, when did the journalists ever write a good news story? $14 trillion GDP, the largest in the world, and people say, oh, it's a bit negative. Come on, 14 trillion. That's bigger than Japan. That's bigger than China. You know, and people say, oh, well, no. What you're talking about is, say, the euro crisis. Well, Greece had a debt crisis. How does that affect trade in the whole of Europe? It doesn't. How does the fears over GDP growth affect it? Well, like I said, even at 0% growth, it's $14 trillion worth of GDP. You know, that's what, 10 Indias in one trading zone. So you get to do you get leverage impact of 10 times as much as you do in India. You don't leave India, of course. You have a base here. You have a base in the UK. It's been showing phenomenal results, not just this year. You know, this year we've got an even bigger drive because the British Prime Minister, when he came to India, and he's been here twice now since he's been Prime Minister and once as Leader of the Opposition before he was PM, has made it absolutely clear India is the top priority country for him, and entrepreneurship is the top priority issue for him. So this has been a renewal of a drive which has been with the UK for a number of years now. And the results we've seen are the phenomenal companies and the entrepreneurs which have set up in the UK, not just as a result of this drive, but as part of the ongoing bilateral relationship between the two countries. And it's something which, again, I guess from as somebody who's British as well as being Indian, it's not something we often sort of sing and dance about, but actually there have been great success stories of companies setting up, the amount of inward investment. What we want to do is see even more of it, because for a very simple reason, it's great for India, it's great for Britain, and it's great for entrepreneurs. Well, every business person, I'm a business person, every business person is going to complain about two main things, always. One is going to be costs, and the other one is taxation. It's got nothing to do with British tax rates or Indian tax rates, and it's got nothing to do with Indian costs and British costs. We're always going to complain about anything which takes something away from our revenues. But the great news nowadays is when you look at the ability of technology to reduce our costs, it means our top line has increased. But you know, when I landed at Bangalore Airport, I saw this great advert. It said, if you want to build a nation, you've got to pay your taxes. So I don't think any longer complaints about tax are as vociferous as they used to be. I think we see as entrepreneurs, we're nation builders. We're economic warriors and we're nation builders. So taxation is not an an issue. As I said already, in terms of cost cutting, technology reduces our costs. So I don't think that's a problem. And anyway, entrepreneurs don't see problems. We see opportunities all the time. We're optimists. That's why we're in this. We're crazy optimists. So actually, I don't think there are pain points. I think if you see pain points, you're not an entrepreneur. Most definitely. The great thing about entrepreneurs is they build businesses. If you build businesses, you need to create jobs. But not just in the UK. These Indian companies which set up in the UK, of course, creating jobs back in India as well, because they're going to keep a base over here. So yes, they're creating jobs in the United Kingdom. Yes, they're creating sales, employing people, paying taxes, growing out of the UK, selling more products, but they're doing the same in India because it's their bilateral trade between the two countries, which is the synergy, which is what allows these businesses to be global. Inbound and outbound, they're all actually part of one virtuous circle. What happens is you get the inward investment from the Indian company which sets up in the UK, and the key reasons they want to set up in the UK that we hear all the time, and it's useful for people to know why their peers and competitors are setting up in the UK, it tends to be the brand credibility of being a British company, because it opens up more doors. It tends to be because as a British company you've got access to all our embassies and high commissions and consular posts. Each of them has embedded within them UK trade and investment personnel whose job it is to find warm leads, open doors, help your business grow and export. And those are the two key reasons people want to set up a British company, as well as having their Indian outfit. So once they've invested in the United Kingdom, the way the virtuous circle works is they then export as a British company around the world, because I say we've got consular posts in more countries, I reckon, than any other country in the world. So instantly you've basically, as a British company, have got a sales office in every single country in the world, because wherever there's a British embassy, that's your sales office. That's how you've got to think of it, because that's actually their job. And people don't realize it. There's a reason why Britain, a tiny little island, is the fourth largest economy in the world. Nobody knows better than them, per capita, how to sell. Per capita, Britain sells more around the world than America or anybody else, because they just have a bigger punch, because they know how to sell globally better than anybody else. Well, we've seen a phenomenal flow from Britain into India, not just over the last year or last couple of years, but actually over the past decade and more. And the reason for it is not just because of UK trade and investment focusing on exports, but also because we've got organizations like UKIndia Business Council, whose job it is to help to build those exports, but also because the British government, and again led by the Prime Minister, has been very keen to see British companies export to the rest of the world. As I said, we've only got a market in Britain of 60 million people, so you are going to be exporting around the world. That's what's going to make you a great company out of Britain. And if you look at all the big, great British companies, they're all global export players. So it's a great test bed out of which to go global, because you know you can't just land there and sit there and hope to just to sell into that tiny market. What you know you're going to do is become global, which is what you need to do in today's environment. And that's why it's a great place from which to become a world-class company. So yes, there is that exporting into India. There are not just joint ventures, but actually companies selling into the Indian marketplace and investing here and setting up shop here. That's always been the case. We want that to accelerate, because we know we've got great entrepreneurs and great products over there. We know we've got great demand in India. We've got to marry them up. We've got to match them up between the two countries and really exploit that desire between both countries to have more trade, more growth for the welfare and the wealth of both nations. Well, actually, UK trade and investment, but also the British government as a whole, works very intimately with the Indian government and all branches of the Indian government, everything from climate change and clean energy to trade and investment, of course. And I was just here with the Energy Minister, Baroness Verma, just a couple of weeks ago. So actually, the depth of relationship can be measured not just in terms of how we work on trade, where we might be negotiating on tariffs, for instance, trade barriers to be reduced, but also actually not just from the governmental side, but when we're working with CII and FICCI, when we're looking at business delegations to work with SMEs, to see how, when we get people in a room like we have with TechSparks, getting those businesses together with capital together so they can do business, because that's when the magic happens. All you need to do is get these businesses together and the magic happens. Whenever they find obstacles, like for instance British businesses will say time and again, they'll say this is a sector we want to get in. Maybe it's legal services, which is an old one, but it might be anything, could be insurance, could be anything. They're saying, look, this is a sector we want to get in. The Indian market is mature enough to have no barriers. They're good enough and strong enough to compete on the world stage, so they don't need protection. Then yes, of course you'll get lobbying from British businesses. But it's not one-way lecturing by British businesses. What British businesses are saying is, guys, look, we've reduced our barriers and tariffs and we've seen that a benefit to our economy. We can do the same with India and we can grow together. If you look at the graduate entrepreneur program, so this is a program called Sirius, where what we're looking at is getting graduate entrepreneurs from all over the world, but specifically India, because we Indians, we have it in our DNA to be entrepreneurial. Once that's unleashed in an environment like it is in Britain, like it increasingly is in India, then we become the best entrepreneurs in the world. You know, you cannot deny, you only need to look at the world's top 10 richest. Outside the United States, there are more Indians represented there than people of any other nation. Never have even Japan at its height had so many representatives on the top 10 richest as Indian entrepreneurs are on that list. And so we know it's in our blood. The Graduate Entrepreneur Program, set up by the British government, the Sirius program, is saying, come to Britain, we'll pay to have you trained up, we'll give you mentoring, we'll provide all sorts of facilities so that you become a better entrepreneur, and then you will hopefully use the British platform, the British infrastructure to become a global entrepreneur from there. So that's one of the programs that we've used. And of course, once you're in Britain, there's a whole host of programs like the Startup Loans Program, which helps young British companies with funding, with unsecured loans of about 80,000 US dollars worth, so 50,000 pounds, to help kickstart their businesses, and a whole host of other things, low-cost offices and so on, which help those businesses. And that's what I mean by saying that it's such an easy place to do business. And I'm speaking as a British Indian business person. It's such an easy place to do business, and I want Indian businesses to capitalize on it the way I have, the way Tata at the other end of the spectrum have, when they made £1 billion in profits from their British company from Jaguar Land Rover. Again, I'm glad you mentioned this for two reasons. One, I sit on the advisory board of an organization called Women Empowered out of London, which works with women entrepreneurs to mentor them and to help them in every single possible way to enter entrepreneurship, because, as you rightly point out, statistically they're underrepresented. The second thing is I wrote a book called Our Turn. I never thought I'd get an opportunity to plug my book. A book called Our Turn, which is written for women entrepreneurs, co-authored by my sister, so that's the credibility element of women entrepreneurs. Again, looking to offer it's not about the numbers, it's not just about statistically having exactly the same number, it's having the choice to decide, I want to become an entrepreneur or not. Whether you choose to go down that route or any other route, and whether you're male, female, Indian or whatever, it's having the choice and having the freedom to do that. And that's part of living our democratic ideal. And that's why it's important. It's not just, oh, well, we want more women entrepreneurs. The reason we want them is because it's to give them the freedom of choice. It enriches the workplace. It enriches wealth, because otherwise it's an untapped resource, and a country is poorer if it doesn't utilize its resources. But also because, I say, it's part of democracy, that freedom of choice. And let's not forget, India is the world's largest democracy. 1 in 6 live under its constitution. So it's important that we tie up with Indian women entrepreneurs and British women entrepreneurs as well, through not just UK Trade and Investment, and we through the Global Entrepreneur Program have a women entrepreneurs strand, but also through other organizations between the two countries so for instance CII and FICCI have their streams, and at TIE we have our streams there, so that we're cross-fertilizing. Fertilizing seems an ironic word to mention when we're talking about women entrepreneurs, but we're cross-fertilizing and getting more businesses, even more businesses in both countries growing.